Hey guys, it's Conrad Bobilak, CEO of Investors Prime Real Estate and author of Australian Property Finance Made Simple, and welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be relatively short by my standards in terms of some of the other videos that I've done, but it's a very important topic, probably the most important topic that I can do with property investing, which is really how many properties do you need in Australia to retire on an average income of $78,000 per annum? And that's after tax. And I've chosen $78,000 per annum because that's actually the Victorian state average income per year for the average employee. And so, the first thing, I guess, is, before we get into it, from a high-level perspective, I would rather have one property generating $78,000 per year passively than 10 properties generating $7,800. One property is less headaches than having 10 potential tenants. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to show you two ways you can re-engineer your objective of retiring, which means that you might have a number in your mind about how much you want to live off your property portfolio. And I think everyone should have a number in mind. For me, when I started my journey in property investing a decade ago plus, it was around the $1,200, $1,500 per week. Now it'll probably be much higher because I've accustomed myself to a fairly high standard of living. But you got to start off somewhere. And the thing is, don't be afraid to just aim at replacing your income. And then once you hit that objective with your property portfolio, you can always go higher. So it's just a stepping stone in your journey to financial independence. So let's get on with it. Personal disclaimer: my results are not typical. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by promising you that you're going to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio like I have, but I'll show you exactly what's worked for me and give you some pointers on how you can implement similar strategies. And in the event you find them congruent with your risk profile, investment time horizon, send me an email. I love to hear from you. I love hearing from people that have implemented some of the things that I teach on my YouTube video, my book. It really gives me motivation to create more content. So definitely, I love hearing from you guys about positive results. A couple of things about myself and why I can make this video today for you, and what gives me the credibility to make this video. Apart from being a real estate agent, a mortgage broker, and having worked in the financial planning industry, the most important thing is that I'm actually a property investor myself in Melbourne right now, buying properties, refinancing, doing all the things that investors do. So I'm keeping it real, guys. I'm not an academic, I'm not a theorist, I'm not an economist that writes columns and looks at technical analysis. I actually do fundamental analysis, which always beats technical analysis when it comes to property investing, by the way. And I'm keeping it real. I'm on the streets. I understand what's happening in the market, and that's why I get so much results far beyond all of these academics and so-called experts claim to have. I'm also the author of the Australian Property Finance Made Simple book, which you can buy at Amazon, any good bookshop, or go to my website, bookonfinance.com.au. And it's $32.95, and you get a bunch of freebies with that book as well. It's just gone bestseller, which is pretty cool. So people definitely are reading that material and learning how to smash their mortgage in record time and build a large property portfolio. Now, let's get into your journey of building wealth through property. And there's two ways you can approach this. You can either have a system, a blueprint based on other people's success, and really just not waste any time and fast track your journey from A to B in the shortest possible time frame, which is literally a straight line. Or if you are like most people, you don't have a plan, you don't have a blueprint, you don't have an external source of experts and consultants, this is probably what your journey will look like in property investing, making lots of mistakes along the way, looking at all different types of properties, buying apartments, high density towers and Gold Coast properties and holiday type of areas and mining towns and all the other stuff that's brand new and shiny every 6 to 12 months that people get seduced by. Where really what I focus on is blue chip properties in wealthy areas in Melbourne, predominantly in the Bayside and the eastern suburbs. Why do I only buy property in those areas? Because that's where the rich people are. That's where the majority of household income is at the highest level in Melbourne, and there's no stock available, and basically they go up the fastest. It's a bit of a no-brainer. There are a number of ways you can live off your property portfolio. The number one way you can live off your property portfolio is just keep accumulating properties. And I'm talking about blue chip growth properties located 3, 4, 5 to 10, 15 Ks of the city in Melbourne, in the eastern Bayside area. And they will give you around a 3 to 4% rental yield. And eventually in about year 8, 9 or 10, depending on which suburb you buy in and which part of the property cycle you buy in, they will become cash flow positive for you. As they double in value, they become cash flow positive. So for example, if you buy 10 years ago, if you bought a property for 500,000 and you're getting a 4.5% rental yield, okay, well let's say 4%, just to make my mathematics super simple, you would get a $20,000 rental income. Now let's say that property over 10 years has doubled to $1 million. You're still getting a 4% rental yield, so you're getting $40,000. Now let's say your expenses are $10,000 associated with the property. If that were the case, today that property will be cash flow positive by $10,000. Plus you've made $500,000 in equity. I can tell you one thing, guys. The rich always build wealth by accumulating equity, which is capital, and this is why it's called capitalism. And the rich and the poor always chase cash flow, thinking they can replace their income, sacrificing capital growth. Now, ideally you get both, capital growth and cash flow. But as we've seen with all the mining towns, look at Karratha, South Hedland, Port Hedland in WA, and look at what's happened in Queensland, in the Surat Basin, everything's collapsed. So all those people that were chasing cash flow have now gone backwards and gone bankrupt. I mean, Karratha, South Hedland is a perfect example. Houses going for, what, 1.52 million, going down to $300,000-$400,000. I mean, many people have lost everything in Karratha, South Hedland that were investing there. But people that were smart in Melbourne and Sydney and Brisbane, and they invested in blue chip areas with fundamentals, they're laughing all the way to the bank today. Because look what's happening in Melbourne and Sydney in the last 5 years. I mean, Melbourne's just done incredible things in the Bayside and the eastern suburbs. I mean, the market's virtually doubled again. You know, and this is the reality of the situation. And it's funny because there's a new generation coming in every year saying, but it's so expensive. It has to be expensive because high-performing properties are always expensive because they keep doubling every 7 to 10 years. So you can live off your line of credit against the equity of the property. So if your property goes from 500 to $1 million, you can live off the line of credit and you can spend that money on your lifestyle. That is real cash, by the way. Whenever I go to the bank and get a line of credit set up and I take cash out, I'll do it online, but let's dramatise, make it dramatical, and let's say I go to the bank and take cash out of my line of credit. No one ever asks me for my report card. They don't say, now, did you go to university, or did you get a high distinction, or did you just pass year 12 or drop out of school? And no one asks me, is this your hard-earned money that you've worked for by selling your time, trading your time for money, or is this lazy equity money? It's funny, no one asks me those questions. Money is money. Money has no soul, just so you understand. So there's no difference between line of credit equity versus your hard-earned income that you derive from your job. So you can use that money to buy cars, holidays, maintain your lifestyle. I've lived off my equity for years. When I left Medfin and I stopped being a financier, I took 16 months off and did nothing and just travelled and enjoyed myself. You can also use your line of credit to invest in shares, annuities, bonds. I'm not giving you financial advice here. You've got to speak to a qualified financial planner that has the results that you want. That's the key, not just a person that's got a diploma behind them, which is worth nothing. And you can also invest, through annuities or things that give you an income stream. When I started my career in financial planning, I worked for Australian Unity Funds Management, 114 Albert Road in South Melbourne, and they had an amazing, I was predominantly focusing on unlisted property trusts, and they had a really good investment back then, which is oversubscribed now, called the Healthcare Property Trust, which is a commercial fund that buys hospitals, and you invest in the units in that trust, and you own a piece of a hospital. Now, hospitals are amazing because they're recession-proof, and it's not like hospitals can relocate any time in the future. Pretty much they're there to stay indefinitely. And you can invest in things like that give you capital appreciation, so your units appreciate in value, and they give you an income stream every month as well, 5, 6, 7%. Speak to a good financial planner, and you can definitely get access to those. I mean, Macquarie's got a lot of these kind of property trusts available, but do your own research. Go to CanStar, Canex as one resource, and do some independent research. Or what you can do, number three, if you don't want to have any mortgages eventually, you can build up a large property portfolio, sell the worst ones and pay off the best ones. Now, as a very rough rule of thumb, you can buy 5 properties, let's say over 10 years, sell 3, pay off 2. Now, why do you need to sell 3 to pay off 2? Because you're going to lose one of them, or the profit on one, in capital gain tax. And you've got to make allowances for capital gain tax. Remember, there's 2 things in life you can't avoid: death and taxes. You can minimize taxes and you can prolong your life, but eventually death and taxes are going to be there no matter what. So definitely you can, buy 5, sell 3, pay off 2, buy 7 properties over 10 years, sell 4, pay off 3, or buy 12, sell 7, pay out 5. Now let me give you a super simplistic example with 12 over 10 years, which is pretty much what I'm doing with all my clients that I'm working with one-on-one. Let's say you're buying properties for $500,000, okay? Now, I haven't got any properties for $500,000. Most of the properties that I focus on are 700 plus. But let's say you're buying properties for $500,000 in an area that's appreciating at 7-8% per year. They'll double every 10 years. So let's say you buy 12 properties for $500,000. Over 10 years, they'll end up being worth $1 million. Now, obviously, as you're buying them, there'll be a delay. You won't sell everything in year 10 because you might have to wait till year 15 to start selling them down. But let's say over 10 years, they all double to $1 million. So if you buy 12 and they all end up with $1 million at the end, you effectively have 12 properties with $1 million each. You sell 7, which is $7 million, and you pay down the other $5 million. So you end up with $5 million unencumbered. And if you're getting 3.5% net yield after expenses, okay, you're getting so you're getting $5 million times $35,000 per property. So, you can retire on really good income if you do that. You've got to work out your numbers though. It obviously depends on your income and your tax that you're paying. Some people will struggle to buy 3 properties every 10 years. I've got clients that are buying 4 properties in the first 12 months. It really depends on your income, your equity, your serviceability. I mean, at the end of the day, your brokers are not miracle workers. They have to work within the restrictions of the lending environment. But I'll show you in this video how you can calculate back and translate your income objective back into property acquisition. Before we do that, let's clarify exactly what it is to become wealthy. And I want to give you a very broad definition of wealth. Because I believe wealth isn't about just having a lot of stuff. One of my friends always says that people spend their life buying shit they don't need to impress people they don't like, which is very true for a lot of people. And that's a pretty sad existence if you've got to buy stuff you don't need to impress people you don't really like. I just question your value system and your belief system. But for me, really, it's about freedom of going for holidays and spending time with friends and family and pretty much doing whatever you want to do. So my definition of wealth is very broad. It is doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want, traveling with friends to Italy for a month, for example, whenever you want, as much as you want, as soon as possible. So my wife and I, we have 6 holidays per year. We're just off to Hamilton Island on this Saturday for 7 nights, and we're staying in a house there in the private section of Hamilton Island. And then after that, we'll probably come back to Melbourne for 2 months, and then we'll go for another holiday. So we just keep going holiday after holiday after holiday whenever we feel like it. That's really the definition of true wealth without having worried about bills and whatever, So have a think about what you would do with your time if money was not important. One of the easiest things you can pretend is if you won lotto tomorrow, what actually would you do with your time? How would you spend your time? Would you still work in your job? Would you do more charity work? Would you travel around the world? Where would you live or would you drive? Have a think about it and write that down. It's very important. The trouble is, as Buddha puts it, you think you have time. See, time is the most valuable asset that human beings have. And you can always buy more stuff, but you can't buy more time. Eventually, you're going to run out of time. That's why it is the most valuable asset that you have. So spend your time very wisely because you will never be able to get it back. Don't waste your time, guys. And that's why years ago I've decided not to watch TV and hang around and watch MasterChef or the other shit that's on TV. I watch YouTube and then definitely I watch Netflix and I read the film review, but I don't watch any TV shows or anything. It just doesn't interest me. And I stopped hanging out with negative people because they have a solution for every, or they have a problem for every solution, as I say. The biggest problem with Australian culture is that we believe that it should be right if we work hard, things will look after themselves. And this is, I believe, the number one reason why Australians end up dead broke at 65. Asset rich, one house paid off, probably in Melbourne, $1 million, $1.5 million. In Sydney, it's probably $3 million, but there's no money in their super fund and there's no cash flow and they can't borrow money because they're too old. And this is the single reason why so many people fail in having any quality of life after they retire. Many people believe that if they work hard and save, they'll eventually become financially independent and free. Not true. Most people end up dead broke. In fact, 97% of people retire dead broke in Australia. This is the single worst underlying belief system that is currently responsible for over 96.5% of all Australians retiring virtually broke. So ask yourself this question, and I think when you're starting out on your journey to wealth, independence and financial independence, the first thing you've got to do is take responsibility for where you are currently. If you look at your bank balance, you look at your equity position, how many properties you have, it's the same thing with the state of your body. Look at how strong you are, how healthy you are. You are where you are up in this point in time because of your decisions and indecisions in life. Now remember, indecisions, or not making a decision, has the same consequences as making the wrong decision. The indecision of never going to the gym will result you never putting on muscles and being potentially overweight. If you are naturally skinny as a person, you're probably going to be weak, if you've never lifted weights in your whole life. And no one cares, by the way, no one cares whether you're strong or weak. It's just about maximizing who you are. It's the same thing with money. If you just continue to work and blow your money and live to paycheck, no one cares. No one's going to ring you up and say, hey man, what are you doing? Why are you not saving money and making decisions about investing? But you've got to understand something. If you don't stop and think about what you're doing, you're going to end up where the majority of people end up, which is dead broke at 65. Probably the house paid off and all the furniture in the house and probably a car and probably 150 grand in your super. So if you're happy with those results, continue to do exactly what you're doing. But if you want more than that, which I'm sure you do, and that's why you're watching this YouTube video right now, then you've got to start planning for it. And the first thing you've got to do is take responsibility for where you are. Don't blame others. Take complete responsibility. By doing so, you take back control over your life. And then by taking control, you can implement certain behaviors and take on belief systems that will get you from A to B. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You're going to be a professional life victim. And I've seen people around all the time permanently offended at someone because someone did them wrong. No one gives a shit. No one cares. Oh, this happened to me, this person ripped me off 10 years ago. Oh, I had a builder, we lost money. Oh, who gives a shit? No one cares. Tell your war story to someone in a retirement village. Take responsibility. Life sucks. Wear a helmet. Just get over it and take action. So if you stop working right now when you didn't change your current lifestyle in any way, shape or form, meaning your mortgage repayments come in, everything's the same. You're having lunch in the same place. You're buying clothing at the same place. Everything's the same. How long could you survive for? Forever? Next 10 years? That's financial independence, by the way. 5 years? Next year? That's not bad. Most people couldn't make it next year. Even 3 months isn't too bad. But most people, it's till Friday and they're completely dead broke. And then within 3 months, they lose their house, they lose their car. Most Australians are literally 3 to 4 months away from being homeless. And majority of them are 6 months away from being homeless if the income stopped. They'll lose their house, cars, everything. That's the sad reality. Investing in real estate gives you that safety net of having other assets working for you and having assets compound while you sleep. So you're magnifying your results and you're getting yourself a secondary source of income, which is super important. So have a think about these questions at home when you're watching this YouTube video. There's no right or wrong, by the way. This is just about you guys and getting the most benefit out of this video by having kind of reflecting back on your situation. Based on your current personal income and expenses, how much do you save? Do you save anything? Now, I can't save money, and I'm very bad at saving money. I've only ever saved one deposit, which was for my first property. Beyond that, I've created a system where I take equity out of properties. I'm terrible at saving. I know it. okay? I'm guilty of it. I can't do it, okay? So property is perfect for me because it's a way of forced savings. Because you buy this thing, you've got to maintain it, right? And then this thing grows and it's got equity. So for most people that can't save, property is the best thing you can ever do because it's a way of forcing you to save, okay? Brian Tracy says, if you can't save money, then the seeds of greatness are not within you. And look, most people are not disciplined. We live in a culture and a consumerism society that has instant gratification. We know we can get credit cards and store credit and things like that and lay-by things and pay a fraction or pay it over time, but we want stuff now. We won't always want to, we never want to delay gratification. And we've been conditioned by, corporations to accept that it's cool, it's fine to do that. You can have stuff now and pay for it later, Is it though? Is that the right way to go? Probably not. Probably not a good way to go. Based on your current business and investment income expenses, what's left over? The key to becoming wealthy is to save at least 20-30% of your income and spend less than you earn and put money away into property, into shares, managed funds, etc. Based on your current assets, liabilities, what is your current net worth? Think about how many years you've been at work now. 10, 20, 30, 40. How much money are you worth apart from your house? How much have you saved? How much have you put away for a rainy day? Just have a think about it. Reflect back on your situation. And then really, I encourage you to think about, is this the best way to function to your 65 and then you really just have to retire? And unfortunately, look, the reality is most people won't be able to retire at 65 and they keep going to 75 and 85. Now, there's nothing wrong working beyond 65 because I can't ever stop working. I know a lot of developers that are worth, millions of dollars and they're still 80, 90 and they still work. They're still on development sites until they get bored or they can't do it for health reasons. There's nothing wrong with working in your later years, but do it by choice, not by necessity. That's the difference. The worst and saddest thing is when I see a person that's 65, 70 in McDonald's, for example, or some takeaway place, because I know they're there, not by choice. No one's to be at Macca's serving idiots all day by choice. You're there because you've probably stuffed up or you've lost money or you've had a really bad divorce or bad luck in life. That's the reality. So, a bit of a financial survey now. Think about how old you are now. Obviously, you know how old you are. What age do you expect to retire and to stop working? Now, for the purpose of this activity, let's say 10 years, because 10 years is a very realistic time frame, especially we are in a property cycle. What assets other than your home do you hope to achieve by then? So let's say a number of properties, we could say 5 properties. I like to focus on not so much the properties, but the net base assets. So combine them all together. How much do you need at the end to give you a specific income? That's what I focus on, not how many properties, because then it's easy to work out how many properties you need to buy to get to that net asset income base, the worth base. And what income do you want to live on? So for me, and this is, by the way, I've just made this stuff up, by the way. This is not from any particular source or anything. This is just living in Melbourne and keeping it real. Being broke in Melbourne is $400 a week. I mean, I put petrol the other day. I drive a V8 6.2 litre sports car, and I put petrol the other day. It was $170, and I'm thinking, well, how can you live in Melbourne for $400 a week? I mean, after rent and food, it's just existing. It's not even. It's being broke basically. You probably won't have a car, or you have an electric car, which is as bad as not having a car. Just kidding. Electric cars are great. Nothing wrong with them. For every 10 cars out there that are electric, they offset my carbon footprint of my V8. Just getting by $600 a week, where if you budget, yeah, you can get by. If you shop smart and really just watch every dollar, probably you could survive in Melbourne on $600 a week. And I'm talking about really just, shopping, Aldi and Bilo and, just really watching what you spend. Probably could survive. Moderately secure is $800 net a week. Now, these are numbers after your mortgage. This is not including your mortgage repayments or your rent. This is just expenses and living expenses. $800 a week, you're probably moderately secure, where you've got some options. You're not you're not driving what you want. You're not really going for holidays much, but you are maybe taking a holiday once a year, and maybe you can, have a kind of have some takeaway food, Netflix and things like that. Independent for me is $1,500 per week net right now in Melbourne after your mortgage or after your rental. And I think independent meaning that you're pretty much $1,500 a week. That's, your car could be $200 or $300 of that, and then the rest could be just expenses and lifestyle. Financial freedom is $3,000 net a week. $5,000 per week is wealthy. I know a lot of wealthy people that are worth millions of dollars. They don't spend over $5,000 per week. I've asked them out of curiosity how much they spend. And rich, $10,000 per week. 10 grand a week net. You're pretty much flying wherever you want. You can go to Europe as many times as you want per year. Drive whatever you want. Do whatever you want, basically. So have a think about, for your beginning, where would you like to be as your first goal? Now, if you're on 40 grand a year, don't put 10 grand a week because your brain's not going to accept it, okay? Keep it real. Keep it ambitious, okay? Don't settle. I'm not saying, be unrealistic, but don't be ridiculous either. So you might say, if you're on, say, 80 grand a year, yeah, you could do probably 1,500 to 3,000 a week, but don't do something ridiculous, because if you won't accept it, it won't become real. Because remember, once you hit that target, you can always go up, So there's no issues with exceeding that target. So the aim of your financial life is to earn a passive income of, write down the number, 1,500. Let's do 1,500 a week for the purpose of illustrating this example, which will give you the freedom and experience of your extraordinary life that you deserve. Because ultimately, I don't believe human beings were put here on this earth to be in the freaking cubicle for 60 hours a week answering emails. Call me crazy, which is what I did working for NAB, and having my mortgage broking business, 60 to 80 hours a week in the cubicle answering emails and taking phone calls. There's more to life than that. It's cool for a number of years. I learned a lot. Yes, I did. I enjoyed my time in lending. I met lots of people, and I've learned a lot of tricks, and my portfolio went up. So I was there because I had a specific objective. But let me tell you, there's more to life than just sitting in a building answering emails all day, which is what people do. How many years from now do you want to start living your extraordinary life? Today, I don't know how to do it today. 5 years, I probably couldn't teach you how to do it in 5 years either. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a get rich very slow scheme. 10 years is very realistic if you implement and do the right things and follow the system. 15 is very realistic. 20, 25, it's almost too long. And then 30 and 40 is ridiculously long. Who cares after that? So let me show you how to do a very simple calculation and translate your income objective back into property acquisition. I'm going to show you how to do that with properties and how many you need to retire on. So let's say your net desired income is $1,500 per week in today's dollars after tax. Great starting point. I think for the average income earner, this is a fantastic way to target your objective, and then once you hit that target, double it. Go to 3 grand, So that's, multiply that figure by 52, you get the income of $78,000 per annum after tax. Now before tax, to get the before tax figure, you multiply that by 1.6, which is $124,800. So $124,800 after tax equates to $78,000 net. Now the good thing is, because we're buying properties, we're going to get a lot of expenses that we can claim as tax deductions. Even if you're not working, you still can claim interest, depreciation on the building, fixtures and fittings, and things like property management fee, council rates, land tax, bins, landlord insurance, etc. Right? So you do get a lot of expenses and deductions for tax reasons with a property portfolio, even if you're not working. Your job, we're not working a job. Your rental income effectively from the ATO perspective is just income. Then you take that figure, multiply by 25 and divide by 4. And you get the amount of 3.12 million in net asset required based on a 4% return. So basically, if you have a property portfolio that's paid off with no debt, or you have 3.12 million in equity in the portfolio, the net income of that, based on 4% net return, will give you $124,800. And probably you wouldn't pay much tax on that because that would give you so many deductions that this would be your net figure. But I'm saying let's go ridiculously conservative. That figure after tax is $78,000 net in your pocket, which is $1,500 per week. And let's say the goal is to do that in 10 years. See, this is exactly what you need to do as an investor. You need to write down your goal on paper and then work towards it. Don't have it in your mind. Don't be one of these people, oh, I don't need to write it down. I know everyone tells me to write things down. Tony Robbins, everyone tells us to write things down. I know what it is in my head. Just write it down, okay? It's 10 seconds. Put it in the journal, write it down, and then reflect back on it and attract things into your life that will make this happen. So, this is the thing that you need to really focus on. And once you hit that objective, then you can definitely surpass that objective. Now, let me give you an example of how you can do this with a property portfolio. Now, what I've done here is I've assumed, let's say, a lot of townhouses in Melbourne in the top 45 best areas, growth areas, are $795,000. I don't know why, just a lot of developers price them at $795,000. And I'm talking about areas like Box Hill, Bentley, even Hampton, areas in the Bayside, or the other side of the city, Yarraville, Altona Beach, Thornbury, 2-bedders are $795,000. So what I've done here is, if they're growing at 8% per year, this is an example that hasn't got any compounding or capital growth. Now I'm going to show you in a second an example that has compounding and capital growth, but I want to show you one without that, first of all. If you add compounding and capital growth to $795,000, it goes up by 8% every year. So obviously that property will double around kind of 7 or 8, which is 1.47 million, right? Probably closer to 9 actually, between 8 and 9, but it's not important. And look, it doesn't have to go up by 8% every year. I only target properties that are in suburbs that appreciate at 10% per year, but let's say it does 8% per year. So let me show you a system where you're just buying 5 properties over 10 years. 5 properties, not 10, just 5 properties. So 2020, you secure a property for $795,000, which is a 2-bedroom townhouse in Box Hill North, opposite the hospital. Then 2021, you secure a 2-bedroom townhouse in Bentley, in the Bayside. And then you secure a 2-bedroom in, let's say, Glen Waverley. Okay? So you've got 3 properties, and then you don't purchase anything in 23, 24, and then you refinance these 2 and get the deposit out to buy another bedroom property here, which is in year 6, which could be in Yarraville. It could be a 2 or 3 bedroom townhouse for 1.2, and another property here in Balaclava or St Kilda East, which is 1.36. And then no purchase, no purchase, no purchase. So just 5 properties over 10 years. Now, because they're growing at 8%, that property in 2030, 10 years later, will be worth 1.716. That property in 2031 will be worth 1.854. That's compounding at 8%. And that property will be worth 927 will be worth $2,002,000 in 2030, just based on 8% capital growth. So once you get to year 2032, which is 13 years from now, you sell these 3 properties and pay out these 2. So effectively, you're selling these 3 to pay out these 2, but you're selling them in year 30, 31, 32. Now, your accountant will tell you when to sell them because you've got to pay capital gain tax. You don't want to sell them all in 1 year, otherwise you're going to be taxed. Now, you do get a 50% capital gain tax for holding them for more than 12 months, but ideally you want to stagger the actual selling down process. So what you do is you pay out these 2 properties, okay? Now, because you're paying them out here, effectively, or I would say here, around 2031, 32, they are worth $2 million plus $1.854 million. So you have a net position now of around $3.8 million. Now, what was our objective in order to replace our income? $3.12 million. Have we accomplished our objective of generating $78,000 per year in year 13? Yes, absolutely. And this is just with 5 properties, guys. 5 properties is easy to do over 10 years if you're working full-time and you're a couple with a bit of equity in your house. There's nothing crazy and there's nothing overly creative about it. There's no some weird option or some reverse wrap, or you've got to convince people to do something, or some weird subdivision, or some rezoning thing you've got to do, or some syndicate. You're just buying a townhouse, okay? You're just buying a townhouse in the growth area. Nothing special. And 13 years might seem like a long time. Think about how quickly the last decade went by. Think about 9/11, you know, I mean, it's just like that. 10 years is nothing, you know. So with 5 properties, you can replace your income and start generating $120,000, $130,000 in year 13, which is about $78,000 after tax. You've replaced your income passively. Now, you're an accountant, you're in IT, you can do whatever you want. You can reskill yourself, you can travel, your wife can stop working, look after the kids, and you work full time, you've got many options. But let's say you want to take it to the next level. Why couldn't you just add another 2 or 3 properties over the 10 years? Imagine that what would happen in years 12 or 13. Your income could increase to 150, 200,000. You might have a goal that in year 15, 16, you replace both of your incomes. I mean, look, there's no rules. It's all up to you. The harder you implement, the more time you spend on this system, the more it will work for you, and you'll achieve your objectives even sooner. So here, this is an example where you're buying 5 properties, sell 3, pay off 2. Very simple. Allow for capital gain tax. Nothing complicated about it. And what we're doing is achieving an objective of $3 million net equity, $125,000 PL, $124,800 before tax, after tax $78,000, which is $1,500 a week. Once you achieve that, go again, make it $3,000. Replace both of your incomes. This is a really good system where you're selling down the portion of your portfolio and paying off the rest, and you're debt-free for the rest of your life. 15 years. Think about this. How many people in Australia end up working in their 20s, mid-20s? They work for 40 years till 65. 40 years. And they end up dead broke with one house, no income, 150 grand in their super fund, which is the latest stats, or 165, whatever it is. This is a system that can replace your income just in 12, 15 years. You can do that 3 times over your working career, but you've got to start early, and you've got to allow compounding to hit your portfolio. See, the hardest thing about this is 2 things. Number 1, it sounds too simple, right? Because it doesn't involve cryptocurrency or buying land in Bulgaria or doing some shop on Amazon and creating supplements, right? People can't, it's just buying a townhouse, it's just buying 5 townhouses over 10 years. It sounds, number 1, it's too simple, it can't be that easy, right? That's what people think. Number 2, it takes too long. The perception is, but it's gonna take 12, 15 years, I want something today. And you've got all these people showing you stuff that they can replace their income in 2 days, or 3 days, or 10 days, or 30 days. And guess, most of those people never replace their income. Most of them, if they do, it's 1 in 1,000. This is achievable for every person because you don't need to work. You don't need to do anything to make those townhouses go up. It's not a business. You just buy them and you sit on them, okay? You're not impacting the results here. You're just buying a property. The property does all the hard work. This is true leverage of equity and time. We don't understand why people don't do this. So what will money do to you? Money's a magnifier. Money doesn't change people. People say, oh, he's changed, she's changed. No, you don't change. You magnify who you are. If you're a good person doing charity work, and if you're giving back to the community and you're doing lots of wonderful things for people, with more money, you're going to be even more involved in charity work, giving people money back and looking after things. If you're a complete bastard and a prick, with more money, you're going to be a complete bastard and a prick, even at a high level. Money's a magnifier, it doesn't change you. You become more so of what you are. So, I hope you enjoyed that video. Are you interested in learning more? I hope you are. If you are, definitely I would encourage you to attend my up-and-coming Real Estate Fast Track Weekend, which I run from time to time. And if you scroll down below this video, click on the link, you end up at the registration page. It gives you all the dates and details of what's included. It's a free event, and it's virtually 2 days of pure education and content on how to build, structure a large multi-million-dollar property portfolio from scratch that can replace your income and give you financial independence. Day 1 is in a classroom environment, and it's all about predominantly finance and how to structure and build your property portfolio. Day 2, which is my favorite thing I do all year, is I take those 40 people put them on the bus. Cameron Fisher and myself, we drive around Melbourne, we educate you on the best areas to invest in and areas to avoid. And we actually go into real projects and we critique them. So we usually choose 3, 4, 5 projects, depending on what's available, and we go into them and we go through real properties and we teach you guys what to look out for, and what to avoid. So it's a very cool 2-day weekend that I run from time to time. We also have speaker Stephen McClatchy from Loans Australia, who's an expert on lending. He's settled now $1 billion of investment lending through his company. So it's pure content, 20 hours in Melbourne. And I encourage you guys to register, reserve your seat. They do go really quickly. And I hope to meet you in person in Melbourne at the event. Tickets are free, but they do get booked out very quickly. Also, for those who want to learn how to pay off their home in record time and build a large property portfolio, check out my book on bookonfinance.com.au or Amazon or any good bookshop around Australia. Also, as a special bonus, for those who won't come to my live event, because you're in a remote area of Australia or you're working in the mining sector or if you're overseas. And by the way, we've had many people fly in for my events from overseas, from Dubai, from Europe, from UK, from Asian countries, from New Zealand, from everywhere in Australia, including Adelaide. And they've loved it. So by all means, Melbourne's a great city to visit. It's a good excuse to get to Melbourne and even spend a few more days during the touristy thing. For those who don't want to do that or cannot do that, then I'm going to give you a free gift, which is a recording of the live event from about 4 years ago. So the information has changed a little bit. The market has moved, but the fundamentals haven't changed. And in fact, I got Stephen McClatchy to record the new 3-hour video last year to update the finance section. And this is a free home study online that you can watch immediately. You don't need to buy anything. There's nothing to sign up for. There's no upsell or anything. You literally just register. You get the access codes. These are the videos, and this is the manual that comes with it, which has all the PowerPoint slides. And you literally just watch the video and follow the manual. It's super easy, user-friendly. I created this for a 9-year-old. So anyone can use it. It's absolutely free. You can get instant access right now by scrolling down below this video, and you can start educating yourself. And it's 10 hours plus 265-page manual plus a 3-hour video on the finance. And there's a bunch of webinars that I did for my private clients there as well, including one on how to buy property with no money down. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Definitely subscribe to my channel in order to keep up to date with the latest videos. This is Conrad Bobilac, and I'll see you on the inside. Thank you very much.